from writer-director Rian Johnson.
The Holy Grail. A perfectly impossible crime.
Wake Up Dead Man has critics singing its praises.
God help me. Anything else?
It's a deliciously entertaining mystery.
That's nice.
It's certified fresh.
It's a miracle!
Okay, you're freaking me out now.
It's the best Knives Out movie yet.
This case is solvable, right?
Oh, you'll see. It's fun.
Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery starring Daniel Craig. Now playing in select theaters on Netflix December 12th, rated PG-13.
Chronic spontaneous urticaria, or chronic hives with no known cause. It's so unpredictable. It's like playing pinball. Itchy, red bumps start on my arm, then my back. Sometimes my legs. Hives come out of nowhere. And it comes and goes. But I just found out about a treatment option at treatmyhives.com. Take that, chronic hives. Learn more at treatmyhives.com.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance. Business owners, meet Progressive Insurance. They make it easy to get discounts on commercial auto insurance and find coverages to grow with your business. Quote in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
It's really cool.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Rosbifs Rugby Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby. Top 14 Pro de Nationale, French national team, Le Bleu, the Champions Cup, Challenge Cups, which are just over the hill, and of course the brilliant towns, cities, bars, restaurants, people, fans, stadia, everything that makes the French rugby experience so magnificent. Rob, you are marking the end of the Autumn Internationals, the weekly stash check. With your that's the technical number, right? For anyone that was listening last week.
Yeah,
so
it's a bit more it's
moisture wicking.
Yeah, it's also not actually that warm. It's a bit more lightweight, but it's I do like it. It looks good. It's also got some go faster stripes. That shows it's a bit more technical.
Are they reflective? They look like they should light up in the dark.
I don't think they are actually, but that'd be quite flair, wouldn't it? Like raving,
that would be
elbows.
Nothing like a French rugby raving elbow. How was your weekend?
Yeah, it was all right. I think I've started to wake up yesterday morning, Sunday morning, with a little bit scratchy in the throat, and it's lingering. It's kind of like, am I about to go down with flu? Am I going to fight this off? And it's just a day or so of feeling groggy. I'm in the could go either on a knife edge in terms of my my weak happiness and weak. Yeah,
nice.
Or maybe I've caught what you've got through the
podcast.
Through the podcast.
Yeah, it can happen.
My ears are feeling a bit funny. Maybe it was kind of directly in the ears.
Possibly. The wonders of modern technology.
You're sounding a little bit croaky, I have to say.
Yeah, I've had a...
Was it screaming Don Les Yeux d'Emily and La Goffa Lolita at the top of your lungs on Saturday night?
It wasn't. I've basically had like a cold and a sore throat for like a week, which actually I feel like pain-wise I've come out of a bit today. But I definitely, feeling still a little bit sore, but nothing too wild. Probably not helped by the fact it was about as cold as I can remember being in Paris on Saturday night in particular. It was pretty nippy, to put it mildly. Otherwise,
we have been very, very cold in some sporting stadia, Richard. I know it snowed, but I don't think it would be colder than Glasgow or Cambridge.
Oh yeah, Cambridge. Was that the Abbey Stadium? Is that what it's called?
Was horrible. I think that might be the coldest I've ever been in my life.
Yeah, that or Scott's Tune with the wind blowing behind and through.
Yeah.
When at that point, little did we know that La Rochelle team doing Glasgow away would go on to such big things.
Yeah. Well, what you could have had, and I'm intrigued to know what you did have. Do you remember when we had Ilted on ages ago? He was talking about how bouillon was really popular in Paris. And we walked when we were there a few weeks ago, we walked past a few places. There was one of the main places in Montmartre. These places have queues for bending around street corners and stuff. Did you have any bouillon?
No, it didn't.
I feel like that would have gone down a treat.
I
this
did
weekend?
go to. I did briefly
Because
go
it's like a stock basically. It's like a broth, right? It's
Yeah,
like French ramen because ramen is everywhere in Paris, and I assume
well, that
it's basically the same,
bouillon
right?
powder you can kind of buy anywhere,
Yeah,
right? Like I know
yeah.
that's probably a simple version of it, but yeah, I didn't. We did eat very well, but nothing, nothing quite so weather specific, I'd say. But did I actually walk past that bouillon in Montmartre, and there's quite a few
There's one
knocking
in
about, aren't there?
Republique near
There's
Republique as well.
one near Passy, and there's a couple. Yeah, I've also years ago went to one Chartier, which I think is quite well known. So yeah, which is they're like, as you say, they're vast and there's massive queues and it's all quite well priced. But on this occasion, no, we'll have to go next time.
Did want to try that. Do want to try? I could have done with that today, I think.
Fair enough.
So where did you go? What was the? Are we doing food highlights now? Let's go. Talk us through your weekend, Richard.
Towards the weekend. So I was, as you know, I was supposed to be going out with the old man, and then my wife Claudia was joining in the evening after heavy day of school teaching. But Graham unfortunately couldn't make it, so I was solo for the first part of the day, which kind of opened up a trip down to Massy. So to be honest, it was fairly like quick stuff, mate. Like Eurostar was delayed by an hour, which wasn't ideal. So that kind of carved in a little bit. Had a little jambon beurre around the corner from my hotel, sort of en route down, and a little glass of wine. I actually went to, I was sending that photo. I went to Wine O'Clock. Whether it's twinned with with Pub O'Clock in Toulouse, I don't know.
Yeah,
but it was actually pretty decent. It's right next to Saint Michel Notre Dame station, which is where I needed to get the train from down to Massy. So I was like, right, I'll stop off in here. Very nice. Down to Massy, cold, not the most salubrious surroundings. I couldn't tell you if it was a little bit rough, a bit suburban, a bit nondescript, maybe all of the above. But it was.
I've always assumed it was a bit rough. I've always assumed it's like these guys, like kind of like sort of Hackney Marshes. Kind of these guys are coming from Massy as their lifeline out of the dodgy banlieues. Otherwise, if they don't find rugby, they find gang lifestyle, and I've kind of always assumed
kind
it
of
was
well
that sort of.
trodden. Yeah, honestly, I couldn't tell you. It was. I think it was just a fairly nondescript sort of suburb, really. But it was also very. There were not many people going to the ground. I basically got there on kickoff, and so there was nobody about, and it was not very well lit. And I was thinking, like, this is a little bit shifty. But
was it actually away? Was it actually in Bourg-en-Bresse?
Yeah. It was probably as quick on the TGV. But good fun down at Massy. Nice atmosphere. To be honest, there weren't many people there, and I think partly there was a lot of rugby in Paris that weekend, and maybe, unfortunately for Massy, a little bit down the pecking order. Bourg-en-Bresse is a hell of a trip as well, and I suppose maybe having backed up from the Paris derby the week before, maybe a few guys taking a bit of a breather. But I'm really nice sort of family communal atmosphere,
Okay.
Very similar to actually when I went to Mérignac, which is obviously quite a few leagues below. Significantly fewer folk in the ground, but there was I had a beer, which was a dreadful decision because it was about -1, but then back that up with a slice of Far Breton, which I'd never had before, which was really nice. Like a sort
What
of,
is that?
I guess somewhere between like a cheesecake and a flan with like a kind of caramelled prune plum thing running through it.
Interesting.
So a little slice of that and a van show from a guy with a little like a little stove. So that was good fun. Yeah, decent game as well. Like both teams throwing it about in the cold. So
have you found the next France superstar? The Academy of Rugby.
I don't think I have just yet. The two guys the one guy who did have a really good game, certainly, but I left a little bit before the end to get my train back. But Anselme Cellier, who's the 10, I thought was really good and kicked really nicely, both out of hand and off the tee, as was Tom Cusson, who was the 13. And then I thought Bourg-en-Bresse's 7 was very good as well. Brodeurs, I think his name is Matteo Brodeurs. He was really good. But it was really, I mean, like the games we've been to in the past, like it's a proper standard of rugby. And thoroughly enjoyed it. A little note from Joel Matavesi afterwards, who obviously weren't able to stick around to catch up with, but maybe we'll get him on the pod at some point. So that was all great. Saturday, basically big long walk through Paris to, I think I told you about this, but one of Claudia's school friends, having previously worked in some pretty serious restaurants in both London and Paris, has opened his own place, a little restaurant called Gilou, which was absolutely sensational.
Really?
And thoroughly recommend it. Like a little bit out the way, sort of say out the way, probably 10 minutes on the metro from anywhere central, quite near Republique. But just absolutely phenomenal foods, beautiful wines, desserts, the works, and a little bonus potato dish on the ass from going winding back the years. And then basically was from then on cold for a long time. Went to the rugby, which was fabulous fun. We'll get onto the game in a moment. And then Sunday, lovely lunch at a place called Freddy's, which is in the Latin Quarter, very near Avant Comptoir de la Mer, de la Terre, and the Mousse. No beaver lager in the Mousse this time, unfortunately, but can't have it all. And that was beautiful as well. Eurostar home, bed, happy days.
Nice. That sounds like a lovely weekend.
But I think obviously England are in Paris this year, right? So I'm sure we'll do a little Paris recommendations and definitely 2 or 3 new spots for the list.
Yeah, well, I think we both have done a little bit. I'm trying to get back out there. I was in Twickenham yesterday because my sister was with her work, was taking clients to the Argentina game. And so I went to see her before, but she was meeting them at a pub in Twickenham and I got spotted by Max, one of our listeners. So shout out Max. But I was saying, he's like, when's the next trip? It's like, so Max has given us some good snaps of Narbonne and Perpignan in the past.
That Max.
Yeah. And possibly lining up. We're going to try and get out for the Paris Derby, the top 14 Paris Derby, the weekend before Christmas, if we can find some travel cheap enough. So maybe even more recommendations from Paris. Who knows?
Who knows? So you were just sort of lingering around Twickenham, were you?
Yeah, in the end, we watched we watched the rugby in a pub in St Margaret's, and then had the realization that we were actually like going to be clashing with everyone coming out of Twickenham going back to Waterloo. So we had to like 72 minutes of the England game, which basically when it finally got a bit tasty, we were like, crap, we better make a dash for the train, otherwise this is going to be hell. But the train there was busy. There was some guys from Jockey Club Cordoba who were all got on the train at Vauxhall. They all had some very flair. They were on like tour, clearly, because it was like tour. They had like Argentina flag. Their stuff had like an Argentina flag and a Great Britain flag. And I saw Jockey Club and I was like, these guys are, I mean, they could be polo players, but they're massive. And they are one of the, they're like one of these multi-sports clubs in Argentina, in Cordoba, unsurprisingly. And I was like, because I kind of looked at it, I feel like that is the sort of club that's got some players in it. There were 2 of the match day 23 for Argentina that started their career at Jockey Club Cordoba.
Oh, wow.
One is linked to you, but not French rugby, and one is linked to French rugby.
Linked to me?
Wow, he plays for Chiefs.
He plays for Chiefs currently. I don't think
there
are any. Second row, played for a season. Is that
yeah?
Oh God, what's his name?
Franco Molina.
Franco Molina. Yeah, I was amazed.
Has he left? Has he?
Yeah. I think he's gone down to like Western Force or something.
Oh, yeah. I feel like there was suddenly a load of them.
Yeah.
Commentaries. Do you know can you guess the other man in the Argentina lineup that has started his career at Jockey Club Cordoba?
Malia.
Wow. My next clue was the president of Jockey Club Cordoba is a man called Dr. Ezekiel Malia.
Oh, wow.
Who, by the looks of things, is brother of Juan Cruz Malia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was like,
lovely connection.
Went down a little rabbit hole of like trying to work out where all these Argentina players played. And Efrain Elias, the Toulouse player, also started there.
Oh, cool.
So bit of a link back there. I did wonder if like they'd had because there's a few other. There was a Toulouse guy in the Argentina squad that I'd never heard of. The replacement tight head, Peretti. He's like a 20-year-old. Nick Holland's like the Toulouse tight head Peretti. I was like, who? And looked it up, and he's never played for Toulouse. He signed this year, and he's but yeah. He's obviously, I think he got picked up after the under-20s.
Interesting. Very nice. I've got to say, I only caught the first half. Tried to watch the second bit on the train back yesterday, but the Channel Tunnel Wi-Fi did for me. But I managed to watch a decent chunk from up in the nosebleeds in Stade de France, shivering.
How much was your ticket?
€25.
25 euros.
It's pretty amazing.
Astonishing. It wasn't sold out though, was it?
No,
I
it
saw some
wasn't.
empty
And I
seats up in
think
the Gourgues.
there weren't as many seats. Well, I actually had a look like the day before. There were not many seats left on sale. Like it was a handful. But I think given like the weather warnings around Paris and the fact it was minus 1,000,000 degrees, and possibly as well, like honestly, there was, and this isn't a criticism, it's just a statement of fact, like there were barely any Australian fans there. You compare it to, obviously the Springbok fans travel in astonishing numbers and plenty of kind of European outposts, but just like the difference was kind of chalk and cheese. Yeah, you just didn't really see anyone until you're in the stadium, and even then it was like a bloke getting leery about the Ashes, which was quite funny. But yeah, it was. I mean, I've got to say, it was
good though. It looked pretty good still.
It was great, and the pre-match stuff is always phenomenal. They just do it so well. And actually, I do think from that kind of slightly higher view, you almost get the view of the stadium for those sort of pre-game histrionics, which is really good fun.
Last year in against the New Zealand game, we could see it, like you could see the Eiffel Tower from where I was last year.
Kind of creates a nice atmosphere. It was a great atmosphere. It was very like obviously cagey and stilted at points. Well, in fact, for most of the first hour, just over an hour, there were big kind of rushes into silence, a bit of booing. Like there was a bit of cynicism, I would say, obviously based on a slightly sticky Autumn Nation series, all told, really. No, it was pretty cacophonous when it needed to be.
Did you get any sense of what the mood, the zeitgeist of the French public was?
Tricky to say. There were a few
Fickle.
Kind of fickle, yeah. Very happy and then very booey was essentially the zeitgeist, depending on who had the ball in hand. I think definitely a little bit of frustration. I did hear a couple of sarcastic remarks about Ntamack and Jalabert. I couldn't quite fill in the blanks, but didn't take a rocket scientist to work out kind of what the general tone was. One thing I would say was a big kind of when they announced the staff and then the players, big raps and cheers for Fabien Galtier. So there doesn't seem to be any sort of, football-esque response to him.
Galtier out.
No, none of that. But yeah, there was definitely whereas I suppose the South Africa game was certainly for the first hour, it was like crackling and there's anticipation. It felt a little bit more cagey. And I think the big bursts of, when it really kind of rises to an occasion, probably kind of peaked with the Gourgues break and the Louis Biel-Biarré try, which I guess maybe put it a little bit out of reach, having been under a lot of pressure. But yeah, it was good fun. It's just for €25, like
that's mad.
It's ridiculous value.
I would say potentially the best, most entertaining game. No, I think the South Africa one had so much riding on it. But like in terms of the rugby, it was good fun to watch, wasn't it? It was Australia.
Brilliant.
Like we kind of thought last week, we were kind of expecting a 1 foot on the plane Aussies to roll over, but they were brilliant. They brought loads of intensity, loads of physicality, and made for a very, very entertaining game. It'd be pretty interesting if they'd had Carter Gordon or James O'Connor instead of Tane Edmed, I reckon. But
they were fantastic, and also quite a lot of enterprise, if that's the word. Like I think they were really ambitious in attack, and they've got some really good nuts and bolts, but put them under a lot of pressure. And ultimately, they probably could have or should have got out to a lead. Just the turnover on the try line just before they sort of then break up field, and then the Gourgues try comes a couple of plays later. Or sorry, the Gourgues break comes a couple of plays later. But at that point, like it was fully on a knife edge, and they were excellent. And I think,
even in the first half, they had that break from Harry Wilson, didn't they? That
like right at the start,
Frost or Williams that drops it, like can't quite.
Under
they had 58. They had 58% possession in the first half, 7 entries to 22, and France conceded 8 penalties to Australia's 3 in that first half.
Yeah, they also missed Edmed. I mean, he kicked a couple of beauties, but he missed a couple of pretty straightforward ones.
And he also
5
didn't
points.
go. They were very critical on commentary about him not going for points. So, like, I think it was early on in the second half, 45 meters out, Ramos steps up. Like, there's no doubt that they're going for 3, and he knocks it over. And they were kind of like, that's just wasn't happening with Edmed because they just don't have that confidence in him as a kicker.
Yeah, although they did, I think, having missed a couple. I mean, there was an Aussie guy a few rows behind us. In the first half, they did then what looked like a dead cert 3 points. They did then get the 5 or 7. I can't remember what it was. So there's a little bit of both ways about it. I think because some of France's rugby was fantastic. The penalties point, I haven't actually seen any of this back. I think I always remember listening to a Rob Baxter interview, and he was like, saying don't give away penalties is a useless message to give because it doesn't kind of say anything about how you're playing, what you're trying to do. But from where I was a million miles away, it felt like a lot of those penalties were particularly brainless and particularly kind of unnecessary.
Don't know about brainless. It wasn't like proper like brain fade stuff. It was
avoidable.
They were all just a bit sloppy.
Yeah.
I think carelessness more than anything.
Yeah. And they had in the ground, which I don't think they did against South Africa because for like the Luther Yard red card, we definitely weren't hearing it, but they had like the mic so you could hear Luke. I think they did, yeah. And they had the, you heard him explaining that there was a point which you hadn't really noticed, and they got a warning before the Luku yellow, and it was like, there's a blocking there, there's an off the ball there, there's like a little shoulder charge there, like it's just mounting up and it's stupid. Next one goes. And I think that obviously is kind of testament to, as you say, how avoidable some of that was. And it put them under a huge amount of pressure, ultimately.
But I think, and they were forced into that because of the intensity that Australia brought to an extent. They did ultimately, however, run out winners and relatively comfortable in the end, which a 15-point win feels, don't know.
A bit of gloss, I would say.
I kind of thought I genuinely thought during the week that France, that like they would click and it could be 50. And when, they scored 48 points, but it didn't feel like a 48-point performance, other than the fact that they played some thrilling stuff. Well, Louis Bielbiere is still amazing. It's a summary of that. Possibly, I think possibly his best try of 2025, which bearing in mind he won the Six Nations try of the year with the one against Ireland where he goes round whoever. He won the top 14 try of the season game I was at the Hamo. I think he was a contender. I don't know if he won it. I couldn't find the winner of the Champions Cup one. Yeah. But I think that one just after half time against Toulouse.
It has to be. That was incredible.
I think the way that he regathers it on Saturday without breaking stride. You never know with
as
those.
A piece of skill.
You see it with Penno, like the whole time. It's like, how much did he mean it? I don't know. When you're traveling at that pace, how much do they mean it to be that perfect, or are they just maybe it just happens. You make your own luck. I don't know. It was
an incredible bit of skill. And also the break for the Deporter try is just so slick, isn't it? And they played some, at times, brilliant stuff. I think, I don't want it to sound like a whinge because it's like it was a proper test match and Australia were brilliant. I think the difference that I seem to see, rightly or wrongly, between the two sides was just some of their ambition off like first phase. Or, and it's not just a case of running like a pretty move, but there are occasions when it felt like they had really decent front football and their plan was basically hands along the back line and maybe find a bit of an edge. But
Richard, that is almost exactly what Chris Ashton was saying on commentary.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Two students of the game. I always knew Ashton didn't know much about rugby, but I just... But it was really apparent because of how much more inventive at points, particularly in the first half, Australia were. And it doesn't take anything away from the fact that when France get loose ball or broken possession, like the quality of their execution after that on Saturday was outstanding. But I think
Gorgeous Gorge.
Like Gorgeous Gorge, which was so beautifully done. Like, even the BLBA try you're talking about there, it's like the ball gets kind of lost in midfield. It's actually a lovely pass from Penno as well, which people were purring about around me because we were kind of in line with it. And then, it's just the execution is so good. But if you think about like a South Africa, without being too kind of negative about it, like a team that aren't going to cough up the ball like that, I think you need to, have something a little bit more on the front foot, which I think France have. So it's a little bit frustrating when it doesn't happen.
I think I read somewhere that sexy Calvin Gourgues, when he blew the kiss, Gorgeous Gorge, after he kind of set up that try, I think I read somewhere that he said it was for a hirsute French rugby podcast host that's visiting from England. I think
I did hear rumours,
I think he blew a kiss for you, Richard. So that game, I think, just to round that off, Deporter won man of the match, which feels like it was kind of to compensate him for the man of the match he should have won last week, maybe. I thought Miafu was fantastic.
Yeah, I thought he was, notwithstanding a couple of silly penalties.
Yeah.
I thought.
Well,
I
think
his
were
really
less
good as well.
His were less. His were more like
Big bloke in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like rather than kind of stupid. Other than that, I've not got that much else to say, I don't think, on the game.
No, I'm happy to leave it there. Sum up the autumn.
Give it a score out of 10, Richard.
I'm gonna 6 or 7, probably a 6.
I'm going 5.
Oh, yeah, 5. Okay, so we're only a point. We're only a mark off. So
I thought you were 7.
No, it's not. 6.
I think they were comfortably beaten by South Africa, which is not. There's no real shame in that, given the injuries. I think they have not had the toughest opposition in the next 2 games, and games have been in the balance at the 60, 65 minute mark against 2 teams they should be far superior to. Australia, because they're knackered and they've got a huge player drain. Fiji, because of the kind of resources difference and the kind of time together
preparation.
Yeah. And I think they've not answered any questions. I think you come out of this with more questions than answers.
I think that's a really good way to sum it up.
And like coming out of it, like because we normally do after Six Nations or Autumn Internationals, we normally do winners and losers. And I literally cannot think of any winners or any losers other than Nicolas Deporter is a winner, because he's had 2 fantastic games. Other than that, I can't think of. There's no one that stands out in the red or in the black.
Yeah, I'd completely agree.
Other than maybe some like Dupont, probably a winner because they've not looked that good without him.
Yeah, I was going to say
Malvaca feels like there's a drop off after Marchand, so Malvaca is actually quite key to this team. Like that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, and I think maybe there's part of me that felt maybe like after that first game, that sort of winning in absentia, like Greg Aldrip. But yeah, I thought you quite rated his performance against Fiji. I think he was fine in both games. But yeah, you're right. There's no one, as I say, with the exception of Deporter, who's come through and really sort of grabbed the spot. And there's nobody who's sort of ironically who he feels maybe on the edge a bit, who's fallen so far.
No, and there's an element of Barassi is probably a little bit of a loser because it's Deporter stepped into his role, and now that is probably him down the pecking order. But that's all we're looking at, which is remarkable because we came out of a 3-0 series defeat in the summer with loads of guys as winners, even though they got kind of comfortably beaten by New Zealand in a couple of the games. So it's what are your key takeaways then? One of the other things we do is what do we learn, or like what are you coming out of this feeling and thinking and knowing?
Well, I don't know about knowing. I think two positions. Well, I think we know they need, particularly at tight head, they've got some work to do. I think that's abundantly clear. That's probably as obvious as anything I could say. I think, and I know you put a little note on this, so we might be getting ahead, so apologies. But I think if you're looking about taking France to the next level in the next Six Nations, the one afterwards, and then soon enough a World Cup's on the horizon, I think they need one of these guys we like and I dare say have hyped up, like your Nucci's, Gazzotti's, Castro Ferreira. I think one of them, or a player of that ilk, is needed in that back row. I think they, particularly without Malvaca at hooker, I think they miss a bit of that kind of abrasiveness in the carry. So that's one thing. And I also think there's a little bit of a balance in the back three that sometimes feels off with the way teams are playing the game now. And I actually don't think Damien Penaud I thought he actually had quite a good game on Saturday, but there isn't a huge amount of strength under the high ball, which I think can be exposed. And that kind of nuggety, Villiers type player I think they're missing.
I'm for listeners who won't be able to see this. I am smiling because I didn't even bother putting front row because we know that tight head's an issue. I had high ball and powerful ball carrying as the two things that they need to address. I think if a high ball is a big worry, we saw them against South Africa, but can you imagine them playing England?
Yeah.
Or even Argentina? And I know I've not seen any of Ireland this autumn, so I'm not going to. I assume their game is still quite kicking based, but they've not played. That's kind of my point about them playing Fiji and Australia. Like if they played New Zealand and Argentina in the other two games, we might have seen they could have gone 0 from 3 because they could have been completely done under the high ball. And they do need a powerful ball carrier. I hadn't thought about Malvaka. That's a great point, or whether I think they'll get it.
It can't just be.
Yeah, if they can get Miafu and Guiard in a 23,
agreed.
Then they've got one of them to come off the bench as a second row. But I think they need one either at 8 or 12. And I don't think they're going to get one at like an actual. They're not going to get a Dialende, Nonu, Tuolangi, Tuasova type 12. And I don't think they necessarily need one of those, especially if they get a Nucci was the kind of guy I thought really as a potential kind of bruiser in there. And also you got to think tight head. So they do get a lot of carrying from Antonio normally. If they can get Tatafu fit, that is another huge ball carrier that they could have. I think there's an element of 5 out of 10 is quite harsh, and it's quite harsh when you think that they are missing Tatafu and Antonio, Cross, Malvaka, Murfana, who is going to fill a hole at 12, Dupont, obviously. Jalabert was injured. I know he's not first choice, but it's an option. And pushes for competition. Atisogbe and then Guiard barely played. So there's guys there that are fantastic. What I wanted to do, Rich, I've got a list of 5 or 6 players that I think didn't feature in a game this autumn. Okay. That I think could be critical to France winning the next World Cup. Because 2021, 2 years before that was when they were like playing some of the most thrilling stuff against New Zealand, and they were and then they won the Grand Slam in 2022, and they're a long way from that. Yeah, let's put it that way. Do you want to hear my players that didn't feature? Tatafu is one of them. Yeah, I think because that he would make such a difference at tight. We've not seen lots of him at international level, but he can scrummage and he's a massive ball carrier and he's massive. A few ones that might surprise you here, Richard. Teo Atisogbe. Yeah. Fabien Braubery. I think Fabien Braubery I'm happy to not have in a kind of 5. Yeah. But I think that's because I kind of forgot about Murfana. I think Atisogbe is the answer at fullback. I think, and we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, I think Ramos to 10 and Atisogbe, or the other name I've got here, Buros, as a Freddie Stewart type, I'm going to take everything under the high ball fullback. Because at the moment they have none of those back 3 are aerial dominators. Yeah, and I think if they just get someone that can take or like a Liam Williams, like the majority of the responsibility under the high ball, then that will help. And I think it's not like if you go with Atisogbe, it's not like you're losing anything with kicking game or broken field running or kind of creative spark. So I think now is the time to go for that and just accept, like, Ramos is their best fly half. Whether I know you think that Jalibert was very good on Friday night, but they've got to pick Ramos, and I don't think you're right, they don't quite have the balance in that back 3 if it's Ramos, Bielbiere, Peno.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think other than maybe the guys like I think Nucci is probably the furthest ahead in that pack, right? For kind of big carriers, heavy carriers, in that chasing pack. Although he played in Argentina, didn't he? He has made his debut. Yeah. But he hasn't played for a little while. No.
I had Kapir on there as well as like a.
Yeah, it's a shame that
Jegu didn't quite see the X factor from Jegu.
I think the ceiling is higher of a Kapir, Nucci, Makalu.
It's the aggression I think they need.
Yeah,
that's
agreed.
What they're lacking, especially with no Bood on there.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. That sort of kind of slight more doggedness in contact.
Have you got any other players that you think need to be involved for France in the next? I'm talking like coming in this Six Nations so that they've got the game time ahead of the next one. You mentioned Villiers,
I don't think Villiers is necessarily the answer. I think he's a fantastic player, and I don't think France when you see him on the team sheet, he was very good in that first test against New Zealand, was it? Or the second test? but I don't know if he's necessarily the answer with the quality of wingers that other sides have, to be perfectly honest. But I just think there's, and it's not, as I say, it's not, I don't think there's guys who are absolutely needed apart from the blokes who are injured, like obviously Dupont, Moaka, Antonio. But I think it's like styles of player. And I think it's, you've got to, as you say there, game time, like you've got to try Nucci, Capilla. Like there's plenty of time to blood them. But if we're in this position next year and they haven't changed, suddenly that does become quite a big problem, I think. And I beyond that, not beyond what you've said, rather, I think obviously we both love Teo Atisogbe. I think your point around Buros is an interesting one. I think he fits like a nice billing, doesn't he, for that rock solid high ball, offers plenty in attack.
I think
he's had a horrible time with injuries.
Yeah, there is that. But I also think as much as they're looking for a steady Eddie to an extent, I just think when the options are available to them, whether it's to keep Ramos at 15 or it's Atisogbe or whatever, Buros just feels a little bit meh.
Yeah, I'd like to.
I know he's a brilliant player. I know you're a big fan of him.
To be honest,
but I just think he's a, don't know. He's not the X factor fullback that's going to win you a World Cup. I don't think. No, not that you necessarily need one, but that's kind of.
But no, I think we're in broad agreement as to where they maybe need to find some profiles, if nothing
also,
else.
Atisogbe's 21 or like 20 or 21. Give him like 15 test caps and he might get the way of Leo Barre and kind of regress. Slightly. But I think the other thing that when you look at what their best 23 is for the Six Nations, I still have a question mark over the back row. I think the centres should be Moefana and Deporter, but I kind of feel like they've almost backed themselves into a corner with picking Fiku and Aldrit as their captains this autumn. I just wonder whether now is the time to get rid of the sacred cows, the Gautier sacred cows. I think Penaud was all right. Penaud's been saved this autumn, but I think it's Aldrit, it's Fiku, it's Ntamack, it's possibly some of the others in that back row. Even though Jelonch, Olivon, if he comes back, Francois Cross, they are some of the best players for France. So I don't. That's trickier. The flankers is trickier, but I think Fiku, they haven't got the balance there. I think Aldrit is not the player he was, and I think Ntamack is not giving them enough.
Yeah, I kind of think.
And Antonio as well. I wonder if it's time to move on from Antonio and Telford and guys like that. Guys that are just old now. And they are the only two. A lot of the guys have had a lot of game time and they are a little bit longer in the tooth. But guys like Jalon and these guys are still like 30. They're not old, but they should be under 30.
Peak, right?
Yeah. Whereas Antonio and Telford are mid-30s.
Mid-30s. I just think, I don't think I believe that France need like big wholesale changes, but I do think, I don't think that at all. I think we're talking kind of one or two players at a time at least. I get, and talk to your point around like sacred cows, I think a lot of teams get obsessed with this idea that like once someone's a sort of international player, they're like 10, 12-year careers unbroken. Like players are allowed to have dips in form and things like that. There is no reason at all why, Gregory Aldrit can rediscover his form ahead of the next World Cup. But I think sometimes you need to mix things up to give guys a chance to see other combinations that work. Like you can't be, you go into a World Cup and you've had, I don't know, for argument's sake, and I'm not saying it's just to pin Aldrit, but if you haven't tried anyone else at 8, if they go with Aldrit rather than Guillard and there's an injury or a couple of injuries, which happens to everyone in every World Cup, I think they've got enough qualities behind to try some of these combinations with guys who are deserving a shot as well. Like this isn't kind of stab in the dark players who don't seem to be there. But I agree. I feel like sometimes Gautier's made like a little bit of a kind of rod for his own back, or whatever the phrase is.
I think on the
stubbornness in selection.
I think one thing that people kind of, and maybe I'm kind of misreading this, but I think the France have had they've had a crop of a long time of like really talented under-20 sides. And I think Penaud was kind of where I was getting at before this autumn. Just because Penaud is a sensational player doesn't mean that Atisogbe won't be better. Yeah. Like, I think they kind of, Ireland had that worry for years. Like, how are we going to replace, XYZ? How are we going to replace these guys that were brilliant for so long. Ronan O'Gara was brilliant for so long. Oh, turns out the guy that is coming in is comfortably better than him. And Johnny Sexton, like, it turns out, like, which one is the generational talent? Is Fiku the generational talent, or is actually Deporter like even better? You just don't know until people get so scared about, well, you can't get rid of so and so because he's 100 caps. It's like Owen Farrell or Finn Smith. Like, there's so many examples of this type of thing, and you don't know until you try it. And maybe I think they've got to try it a little bit more.
Yeah,
I know they do over the autumn, but they've got to try them in a full strength side.
Agreed.
And also give these guys a kick up the arse a little bit. Maybe Ntamack is just cruising into that team at the moment.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Unchallenged.
Yeah, completely. And I think just my kind of final point on it is that a lot of these guys have been considered like key to the way France play and key to Galtier's kind of approach, which I probably don't know enough about coaching to understand exactly what that means. But I think with the exception, if we look at this year, like there was that fabulous performance in Dublin, which is brilliant. They were good at points in the Six Nations, but it's ultimately
they blew England off the park and should have won.
They should have won. But they didn't.
No.
Which is, I mean, I think that was a little bit of a freak occurrence, certainly the number of drop balls in that first half.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they've had like a really middling year at best, which sounds silly given they won the Six Nations and looked excellent at points. But I think all of that is behind now because pretty much the same group of players have kind of limped through this autumn. So it's not that these guys are integral to anything, at least at this point, particularly special. That might sound a bit harsh. So as you say, fresh blood, bit of a kick up the arse. We've seen, I feel like New Zealand, South Africa over the years have always, and not just France, I think England as well have always been wedded to this. Like, there doesn't always seem to be an acceptance that players' form might falter, dip. Sometimes, as you say, like a bit of competition, like you're allowed to have these things. It doesn't mean that these guys don't come back. But if not 2 years out from a World Cup, then when really?
Yeah, I think there's only two players in that side that I think are critical to, like, absolutely critical to how France play. And I think they are Dupont and Ramos. And the possible third is Biabere. But I think everyone else there is not necessarily replaceable. That sounds belittling, but I think they've got so much depth and so many options. The two that they kind of can't really shake. If they lose one of Ramos, we've seen, if they were to lose both Ramos and Dupont, I think they'd be quarter-final exit, guaranteed sort of thing. But Richard, finish it positively. Can they, if they make some changes, or if there is a regeneration, or these players rediscover their form, do you think that Galtier can lead this team to a World Cup victory?
I think he can, but at this point, it feels miles away. I think there are not just South Africa. I think there are teams. There are teams in between.
This, in theory, should be their year to win the Six Nations
home games
because
it's
England and Ireland. Yeah. But I can't see it myself.
We'll see. It'll come around quickly.
We'll see. Yeah.
What I have learned this autumn: Paris still a fantastic city. Gets way too much bad press. And I've actually, Rob, I meant to say this earlier, I actually bought you a present back from Massy, which I'll show you now. Not great for listeners, but to try and describe it, imagine you are maybe like club dinner, rugby club, cricket club, football club. You're attending a regional nightclub in sort of 2005, Ipswich. What was your nearest on the Isle of Wight? Ryde, is it? Southampton, somewhere like that. And you've got your best Burton shirt and you've got the Massy school tie.
Oh, wow.
Look at that.
Well, that's quite cool, actually.
I've got to say, it looks better on the camera than it does in person.
Is it better material than our Malden Wanderers club ties? Because that is...
I'm trying to... Let's have a look, shall we? I can't see. Yeah, I'd say it is. It feels, I would say, the cricket club tie probably fully alight from a cigarette stub within 5 seconds. Okay. I reckon this one you got a minute.
Yeah, okay, fine.
A minute before it goes up.
Nice.
So yeah, I'll deliver that at some point. Maybe you can wear it to if you get to that next trip to Paris.
Yeah, maybe.
Sartorial capital of the world. Cool. All right. Paris, France, done. Top 14 after the break, I suppose. Rob, top 14, some happy Rosbifs, it must be said. You've seen all of Poe's fabulous win at the Shaban del
That
Mas.
was, yeah, a belter.
Talk to me about it.
One of my mates was there on a stag do. One of my good mates from school. He said it was loose. He said it was really good fun. He said France is dreadful as a vegetarian, which he said he had two of the worst meals of his life, but he loved Bordeaux. So I think the stag was a Newcastle fan. So the plan was to go and watch Andy Carroll.
Wow.
And then apparently, I think Andy Carroll now plays for, I think, Dagenham and also Redbridge. So he's gone. And so they didn't go and watch Girondin, and they basically went straight from the airport to Chaban Delmas. And what a cracker it was. It was a fantastic game, I have to say. It was really, really enjoyable. It was one of those games that you watch and you kind of think, oh, they had a good game, they had a good game, they had a good game, sort of thing. Yeah. Have you seen any of it?
I've seen none of it.
My monologuing here.
Go on, talk to me about it. Because it was Friday night as well, which feels good fun.
I reckon
With
Friday
no
night,
Pro Day
Chaban Delmas must be
Yeah.
a lot of fun. I imagine. I'm not surprised on a stag do they had a good time. Do you know what was interesting about this? So we on Thursday when these teams came out, I said we can kind of snuff out the hope that Pau were actually going to do anything in this game because they looked shaggy. They looked bin juicy a little bit.
Which I did say straight away while WhatsApp, I felt was a slightly harsh judgment.
Yeah, a little bit. But they also, the bench had a few players that were good quality in it, or like some of the guys coming back from the French squad. But it was more the fact that Bordeaux didn't look remotely bin juicy that they had. I know they had their 9 options were very inexperienced, but other than that, like they had like Cazo, Parlou, Woki, Poirot, Barlow bloody captained France in the summer. Jalabert, Rohan Jansi van Rensburg. It was just Buros was fit. Like the fact they had Jalabert and Buros, two guys that arguably should have been playing for France. And like even the bench had like superstars on it, like Johnny Gray and Bastien Verne was capped over the summer. And yeah, I didn't hold out much hope. And actually, what is interesting about this game from a Pau perspective, and I'm going to try and not be too overly partisan here or too nerdy from a Pau perspective, but it was actually the guys that aren't the kind of remotely the kind of exciting prospects, I guess, or they really are the lesser heralded stalwart type players. Like I think like Sacha Zegur and Loic Credos in the back row were absolutely fantastic, and they were brilliant against Toulouse when they won that game at the Hameau. But they did so much work at the line out, in attack, in defence, at the breakdown. They were brilliant. I thought the guy I've kind of two former Bordelais that I've kind of stuck my knife into in the past from a Pau perspective. Kaulashvili scored a try in the opening minute, and Thomas Jolmez actually had quite a good game as well.
Nice.
So like it was the guys that, no, that's harsh on Zegur and Credos, but guys that you don't, I kind of, when I see them on the team starting, I'm like, oh, okay. It wasn't, I know Arfoy scored a brilliant try from a crossfield kick, and Aaron Grandidier was fantastic, and Braubery set up a try for Issa, and so those guys were involved, like the guys that are the headline grabbers in that side. But Aymeric Luke was absolutely fantastic at fullback, both under the high ball, his kicking game, coming into the line as a second creative option. I think that I don't know what it says about Bordeaux or Pau's coaching, or did they just kind of all fire at the same time? But that's now twice that they've beaten a champion side. Like they've beaten Toulouse, and they've beaten the top 14 winners, albeit at home, and they've beaten the European champions, albeit slightly weakened, away, with quite a lot of their own players missing, and quite a lot of like their kind of decent squad players coming to the fore. Like Desperez was brilliant again. I think it was the kicking, and that was what's so good against Toulouse, was their kicking game, their kick chase from two electric backs in Arfoy and Aaron Grandidier, but their kick chase was fantastic. And that's not to say that, and like it was one of those games where, like I said, like Bordeaux were really good. They lost one line out towards the end that, with like 2 minutes to go, that was they could have done with winning, and it might have been they could have won the game. But their line out was exemplary for 70 minutes. I thought Woki was fantastic. Parlou was fantastic. Jalabert was pretty good. Not everything came off for him, but he was blooming good at other points. Barlow was great, played the full 80. Yeah, these guys had really good games. Like, I thought Woki and Parley were really, really good. Yeah.
Proper game.
And it was a ferocious game. There must have been so many illegal things going on at each ruck. But everyone was flying in, like in attack and defence. They were all flying in at the breakdown and then all trying to counter ruck, which is why Credos and Zagur was so impressive, because they were just always the ones counter rucking or always kind of in the breakdown making a mess of it. It was a fantastic game to watch. Really good game.
Brilliant.
And Poe are going to win the league.
Touch
wood. No, I think that's stretched too far. But they have come a long way. They've come a long way.
They've been brilliant. They were, when they were playing great rugby last year, they were not beating the big boys at home, and they were not picking up really anything on the road. They've been fantastic value for it, and sounds like they were here as well, which is
I was thinking awesome. About that. Last year, I remember that I think in quite close proximity, they played Toulouse at home and Bordeaux away, and played decent, hard, really fought hard, and got nothing, got 0 points. Yeah. And from that, this year, they've got 8 points, which is quite a turnaround. And I think that shows that they're not going to be challengers. I think they will. I think Toulon and Bordeaux strength will come through, but they should be in the barrage. Whether they get, I don't think they'll get a home semi. I'm still think this is all going to come unstuck. It kind of feels a bit too good to be true at the moment, especially when you go away to Bordeaux and with a team that isn't your own full strength and beat that team. Yeah.
Well, keep enjoying it while it lasts, and hopefully it lasts a little bit longer than maybe you're expecting.
I'm looking forward to December, mate, because then I can wear my Christmas jumper.
That's the main thing that matters in Poe's run.
Yeah.
Very good. Can't let you get away with the gushing over Poe without mentioning that the boys Castres.
Hey, there were some scenes at the Marcel de Flandre.
Excellent win away at La Rochelle. They were absolutely loving it at the end here, weren't they? I mean, I think understandably so. I mean, La Rochelle away is a massive win for anyone, particularly Castres, who have been pretty sticky this season. Obviously lost to Pau at home, lost to Bordeaux at home, and could very well have lost to Montauban, both Paris sides, but have somehow kind of held firm. And remarkably, at one point in this game, we're down to 12 men as well,
which is so Casty.
Which is so Cast. In fact, the winning kick
was one of them. Was one of them Chilichava?
No, I don't think so. Well, I could be. Was it? No,
I love how often he's at the middle of like a double. Yeah.
A double.
It's so good.
Yeah, they don't love his scrummaging, but yeah, an amazing win, and the scenes at the end were incredible. And finished off, actually, nice to see someone who, this is a bit cast nerdy, but Quentin Walker was on the bench his first game this year. And I think he's such a good scrummager and so key to them. And I think, hopefully him, Durand, who was up for player of the round.
Good signing from Moyana.
Really good signing, and Collier kind of get a bit more game time together. And it was Walker at the end who shanked it off the pitch.
Nice.
Always good to see a prop. We didn't talk about Angus Bell's amazing try earlier for Australia, but good to see props doing the flair stuff. But yeah, brilliant win for Cast.
I was going to ask you about Gueris Gallison, the guy that has been playing loose, because he's played a lot. I don't know how much. Have you seen much of him? But he seems to be playing that much as first choice for Cast. You've got to be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I think he would tuck behind Volker when fully fit. But yeah, from what the bits I've seen, he's been solid. I certainly haven't read too much to suggest. Well, Cast scrum, maybe with the exception of that first game against Pau, actually, where they did get Leclerc had a bit of a day out, has been pretty steady. Obviously been maybe a bit more of a weapon in the past when Barlow, Collier, Walker, but yeah, I think he's done okay. I don't know if he's back, but I think another guy they've missed a little bit with what Barlow going is, I think Zaron Tonello got injured in the game against Toulouse that we went to see. But yeah, they seem to be getting players back to a bit of fitness. Obviously, Popperland's there, and maybe the tide is turning a little bit.
Couple of good games from Popperland at 10.
Good player.
Popperland at 10. Yeah, I'd really like against his former club as well.
Yeah,
guys having good performances against former clubs this week.
What else happened? Paris. I wasn't able to, unfortunately, go the full Paris quadruple header. Massy, Stade de France, Racing beat Bayonne, and Stade Francais seemed put 50 on Toulon, who are missing a few, but sent a decent enough side. Stade Francais are looking whisper it, looking all right.
Yeah, they look quite settled. I think that's part of it. I do think I've said this before in top 14 in Pro D2, I think there's a lot of teams put onus on rotation when actually just consistency of selection goes quite a long way. And I think that's what they kind of got right a couple of years ago. There was a guy, I haven't got his first name now, damn it. There was a guy for Toulon on debut called Gracieux.
Matteo Gracieux.
Matteo Gracieux, who scored, I think, with his first touch.
Oh, nice.
But he did score. He scored on like 6 minutes. And I think it was his first touch. Yeah, 20-year-old winger. Oh, actually came through at Castres, Richard.
Ah, yeah, don't know much
Yes.
about him.
He looked very much like a teenager on a rugby pitch, not in like physique wise, just like, oh, this is great. How good is this? Sort of like that was his kind of facial expression. But I think, I did watch that game, but I think that's the main story. Do we want to touch on the other games before the main story?
What's the main? I can't read your mind here. Or is the main story the bottom of the pile?
The bottom two, yeah. I think it's
not looking great. I mean, the only one we've missed is Lyon beating Clermont, right?
Which serves to stretch that or exacerbate that sense of the bottom two being cut adrift, because Lyon are on 22 points now. So so they are 10 points behind Pau in second and 15 ahead of Montauban in 13th.
Paint it like that, it's cut adrift and then some, isn't there?
Yeah. Also, Lyon, of the top 12, Lyon don't have the worst points difference. That belongs to Castres on minus 58, but Lyon are on minus 28. Montauban minus 246, Perpignan minus 157.
Wow.
So their Perpignan's points difference is minus 99, worse than the next worst, other than Montauban.
Baptiste Couillou back for Lyon as well is probably slightly noteworthy.
Yes.
Perhaps not that much of a surprise that their best performance in quite some weeks has come with him back starting with Bordeaux at 10.
Yeah, I did think that.
Yeah,
but I've caught the... I didn't bother watching the Montauban highlights just because I was like, what am I going to watch? What am I going to see here? I did watch the Perpignan highlights in the hope that I might glean some information about what was so bad about Perpignan, or were Montpellier good? And I couldn't tell you that much, to be honest, because Montpellier's tries were scrappy. They were not fluent attacking rugby. There was a few kind of pick and go tries from tight five forwards, but even the ones scored by outside backs were nothing. It was all like one of the tries, it might not have been Ngandebe that scored it in the end, but one of them, it's almost like they're trying not to score it in the corner and they still score it. There was nothing to suggest from the highlights that Perpignan put up any sort of quality resistance. Big news in that game, obviously, Richard, was the return of young Benjamin Erdepageta, who caught the kickoff, so straight back into the action. And Perpignan were nilled, but not for lack of trying, because Benjamin Erdepageta, in about 3 minutes, had a kick about 30 metres out on the 15 and hooked it. So, they've even brought in it's really not working when you get a new coach.
When your luck's out.
You've got a former France coach, a guy that's won the top 14 with 2 clubs, and you've brought him in and you've got 0 new manager bounce. You've brought in a steady Eddie fly half to kind of hopefully pick up form. He's missing gettable kicks. It is just not going for Perpignan at the moment. It looked like a pretty flat atmosphere at Raoul Barrière, I have to say. Definitely looks a bit different
not ideal.
when it's kind of dark and clearly quite cold compared to whenever I've seen it on TV before, when it is glorious sunshine.
Yeah, not great. Quick nod to next week. Any take your fancy fixtures wise?
No, not really. It's not a particularly vintage round, I have to say. And you've got the added element of Champions Cup on the horizon,
just around the corner.
So you don't know. So some of the sides that could win away, like La Rochelle or Bordeaux, probably won't be sending their stronger sides because they might try and do something in Europe. Obviously, Pau hosting La Rochelle is one that catches my eye because it's Sunday evening game for Pau is quite rare. But there's no kind of nothing really grabbing me. Your boys are hosting Perpignan, I think, aren't they?
That would be so cast to get done at home now.
They can't lose to Perpignan. They can't lose to Perpignan.
Doesn't feel like they will. Cool. All right. Well, we're looking forward to that. And then it is Champions and Challenge Cup afterwards, right? Last one, and then is it the week before Christmas? That's when your Paris derby is potentially.
Yeah, and the next one is there's something like the 20th of 20th of December is the next,
all right.
next set of fixtures.
Very good. There was no Pro Day the weekend just gone. There was a little bit of Nationale. Obviously, I was in attendance for Massy beating Bourg-en-Bresse. I think the big headline is that our boys Perriger top of the league.
Yeah, top of the league after beating Narbonne at home, 25-20.
Yeah,
I can't believe how tight some of the games are in Nationale. They're always so tight.
I'll tell you the other massive win as well. Albi away at Nice, 24-21. Late try. Who's the try scorer? Theo D'Hospital, which is a fantastic name. Sorry, coughing aggressively there at the excitement of Albi's fabulous away win. And what else? Anything else? Take your fancy.
Yes, Chambéry beat Rouen. That's quite a good result. Yeah.
Bourgoin beat travelling Marc-en-Barruel. They've had quite a nice little run of it, Bourgoin, actually.
Yeah. And Tarbes getting a bonus point at least away at Rennes, 10-6. That sounds like a thriller.
Proper.
In Brittany. I bet that was cold. That was really cold.
Sounds exposed. Nothing next week, and then back the 5th. Albi host Perriger. That should be a cracker.
They are
we
joint
can discuss
top
that.
42 points.
Oof, beautifully set up. The narratives write themselves in Nationale. What a league. As does the homemade cake, which was bloody lovely on Saturday night. €2 or €4, a van show and a slice of Far Breton. That's
a bargain.
They also had, I didn't stick around, but
don't worry, mate. You could have got a tasteless Guinness at Twickenham for £10, I'm sure, if you'd gone.
They had a proper little mini bodega as well out the side, which looked like it would be quite good fun afterwards. There was no Pro Day this weekend. What have we, or this Thursday and Friday?
Top 14 might not. Yeah, there's some crackers
Thursday
in this round.
Go on, what's piqued your interest?
Oh, all of them. The first one is Brive hosting Colomiers, which is, I should say Valentin Delpy had a brilliant game for Toulouse. I think we think he'll return to Colomiers after all the big dogs come back for Toulouse, and he could be pretty key. I hope that they'll smell blood a bit. Brive new coach or a bit of relegation form in the last block of fixtures. Bit of coaching shuffling around. Wonder if Colomiers will go for it. I'd like to see them go for it and go strong side, because that could be an absolute cracker if they try and really take on. Brive have lost at home, so Brive, they'll want to correct that. Whether they pick their best players, I think, there's a few players that I'm kind of looking forward to getting knowing a little bit more about. I think we've got to really dive into Colomiers, because these guys could be a top 14 side next year.
Yeah, they're going really nicely. What else we got? Provence hosting Carcassonne. Argennes travel to Vannes. That don't want to be doing that at the moment.
It's a team going well, going away to Vannes, but there's also Nevers and Valence Romans, isn't there? Valence at home for that one.
They are, yeah. Nevers being a bit iffy on the road, haven't they?
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Oyonnax hosts Béziers. It feels like Oyonnax, that win at Argennes, maybe just clicking into gear. Bit of a change of luck. Angoulême, Aurillac.
Yeah, cracker. I've got an interesting story about that Béziers Oyonnax one. They were going to be a supporters group called Les Brennus, I think they're called. They have started a crowdfunding campaign for a hotel the night before for the Béziers players, because the club, as part of their cut down on costs, the club were going to send them up on the morning of the game. It is 460 kilometres from Béziers to Oyonnax. It's a 5-hour drive, which I'd imagine in a coach might be a little bit longer.
That's ropey,
so
isn't
you can see why there is some displeasure. At Béziers.
That's bonkers. Oh, so I mean, maybe there's a thing if there's a home fixture and they want to stitch him up. I can't imagine. I mean, Oyonnax's tiny though, isn't it? I was going to say I can't imagine a hotel in Oyonnax costing that much for. But I guess who knows?
He's got to put up. I imagine you've got to put up 30, 40 people.
Yeah.
But even then, you can send the send the coaching staff up on the day.
Do what the local rugby clubs used to do when you do like an exchange. So the Oyonnax players can go and stay in like the flats and houses of the Beziers players can go and stay with the Oyonnax lads, and then they can return the favour in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I like that.
A bit of hosting.
Who you being put up by Uzair Kasim?
Yeah, exactly. Get to know the family. Yeah, let's do that instead. That's a much better idea.
I reckon Zach Holmes, that's the gig you want, isn't it? I reckon he's a man well travelled.
That's wild. And then maybe arguably the fixture of the round in terms of relevance. Obviously very early to be talking about league positionings, but not only is it a bit of a relegation scene setter, but also big derby, the long derby.
Yeah.
Dax Mont-de-Marsan.
Yeah, that's a cracker, isn't it?
Dax fresh off an away win as well, or fresh-ish off an away win.
Found some form, and Mont-de-Marsan, really haven't.
Yeah.
There's an argument that for 5 out of 8 of those games being game of the round, I think.
Yeah.
Some beauty.
Nicely poised, I would say, those fixtures.
Yeah. Just what you want after a return as well, like some real on the knife edge fixtures.
Lovely stuff. Beautiful. Look forward to it as ever. We'll have a preview out in the week for Brief Colomiers. Give it a read. Rob, Petit-Fours. I am, bar a couple of new restaurant recommendations in Paris that I've squandered early doors. I'm a bit dry here. Anything that's caught your eye?
Well, just on Béziers, there's more disquiet there. Adrien Segre of Castres is I think going to La Rochelle to fill the injury holes left by Danty and Longuevala, which I think is pretty much a done deal. But Taylor Gotiniak, the Romanian international who made our players to watch for Pro Day of the season, has only played a couple of games. He has had an injury that is being treated on, but apparently has also fallen out with the coaches, or fallen out with the staff, which is part of the reason why he hasn't been playing. But he is apparently on his way to Castres, and then it's apparently not. Apparently it was a done deal, and now it's not a done deal. But more shenanigans behind the scenes at Béziers. That's one we need to dive into. And the other big news is Melvin Jaminet, the hearing over his transfer is on December the 8th.
Wow, I'd forgotten about that. The Jaminet affair. Interesting. Very good. All right. I think we're done for another week, Rob.
There'll be loads more from us. See us on socials. There's so much rugby, but we're running out of time. And
we are.
YouTube, there'll be more from us. There'll be more on all things rugby articles. There'll be more from us on Instagram and Twitter. We're everywhere, guys. Come on.
We're taking over. We've got about 5 seconds left. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.